For the last 500 years, there's been a secret playbook for psychological control. I'm serious. It was so dangerous that church actually banned it, and powerful leaders studied it in the shadows. But it wasn't just about politics. It was a terrifyingly accurate prediction of how your brain works. And today, we're going to crack it wide open. But first, let's start with a question that I think we've all asked ourselves, especially lately. Why do we, smart, savvy people, sometimes fall for lies that, looking back, seem completely and totally obvious? The answer is kinda nuts. It's because your brain literally gets a chemical reward for believing them. It feels good to be fooled. And look, I'm not just making this up. A neuroscience study in 2006 did something wild. They put passionate political supporters into brain scanners and then showed them hard proof that their favorite leaders were lying. What happened next was shocking. The logical, reasoning parts of their brains just went dark. At the same time, their reward circuits, the same parts that light up for drugs or winning big, they just exploded with activity. They weren't thinking critically. They were getting a literal chemical high from rejecting an uncomfortable reality. Now, here's the crazy part. This modern brain hack wasn't discovered in some high-tech lab. Nope, it was laid out in detail 500 years ago by a disgraced diplomat named Machiavelli. He was basically writing the instruction manual for the bugs in the human operating system. So, this guy, Machiavelli, he was a big shot in Florence, got a little too close to the sun, and ended up being tortured and exiled. So what's a guy to do? He sits down and writes his masterpiece, The Prince. It was so scandalous, so brutally honest about power, that the church banned it for decades. See, he wasn't writing about how things should be. He was writing about how they are. And his whole philosophy really boils down to this epic battle that's happening inside your head right now. On one side, you've got Fortuna. He saw it as a chaotic, destructive river. For us, that's the endless fire hose of news, social media, global crises, all the overwhelming complexity you can't control. And on the other side is virtue. That's your brain's desperate need to build a dam against that river, to find simple, clear stories that make all the chaos make sense. And that right there, that desperate craving for simple answers, brings us to the first and most powerful weapon in the modern manipulation playbook. It's all about weaponizing simplicity. This works because of a little quirk in your brain called cognitive ease. Basically, your brain is wired to be efficient, maybe a little lazy. It has this shortcut. If an idea is simple and easy to process, it feels true. If an idea is complex and takes a lot of mental energy, it feels suspicious. Simple just feels right. And Machiavelli totally called this 500 years ago. He basically said that people are so naturally drawn to simplicity that a clever manipulator will always find an audience that's ready and willing to be deceived. It's a feature of our brains, not a bug. Okay, so that's weapon number one. But how do you take a simple lie and make it feel like an undeniable truth? That brings us to weapon number two, manufacturing reality. Machiavelli said a leader has to be two animals, a lion and a fox. The lion is all about brute force, censorship, punishment, silencing people. It's obvious. But the fox is subtle. The fox's modern weapon isn't a sword. It's repetition. A lion can make you shut up, but a fox can change what you believe. And modern science backs this up with something called the illusory truth effect. It's incredible. If you show someone a statement just once, they're likely to be skeptical. Show it to them 3 times, and they'll start thinking, maybe there's something to that. By the time they've seen it 10 times, it just feels true, even if they were told it was false to begin with. Your brain mistakes familiarity for truth. And look how fast this happens in the real world. On Monday, someone makes a false claim. By Wednesday, it's everywhere, echoed by supporters, amplified by algorithms. By Friday, even the fact-checkers are repeating the lie just so they can debunk it. But it's too late. By next Monday, you've heard it so many times from so many places that the lie has become ambient noise. It feels like common knowledge. It won, just by being loud. So you've been given a simple story, and it's been repeated until it feels real. Now for the third weapon. And this one is maybe the most genius, the most subtle of them all. It's about making you feel like you came to the conclusion all by yourself. It's the illusion of choice. Check out this wild study. In a lottery, they asked people how much they would sell their ticket for. The people who were just given a random ticket gave a pretty low price. But the people who got to choose their own numbers, they demanded 4 times more money. The odds were exactly the same, but the simple act of choosing made them feel like they had control, and they valued their ticket way more. You see this every single day. Think about the toothpaste aisle. You've got Mint Blast, Arctic White, Super Fresh, dozens of options. You feel so empowered making your choice. But then you look closer and realize they're almost all made by just two giant companies. You have the feeling of infinite choice, but you're just picking from a menu someone else already wrote for you. So here's the question you have to ask yourself, and it's a tough one. How much of what you believe about politics, about the world, about yourself is something you truly discovered versus just you picking the most attractive option from a pre-approved menu? And that brings us to the final, and let's be honest, the most cynical weapon in the entire playbook. Hiding your real intentions behind a mask of morality, the virtue cloak. This is probably Machiavelli's most infamous piece of advice. He says a leader doesn't actually have to be compassionate or honest or generous, but it is absolutely essential that they appear to be. The performance of virtue is way more powerful than the real thing. And man, are we drowning in these performances today? We call them virtue signals. You know what I'm talking about. The perfectly curated social media profiles, the corporate tweets supporting the cause of the week, the carefully worded statements from celebrities. They're all designed to do one thing: appeal to our emotions and completely bypass our critical thinking. Your brain sees the signal, you feel good for agreeing with it, and you stop asking hard questions. Okay, so that's the playbook. It sounds pretty bleak, I know, but here's the thing. Once you know the tricks, you can't unsee them. Understanding the weapons is the first step to building a defense. So this is your manual for hacking your own brain back. So here are 4 rules to live by. First, audit your comforts. Seriously, the beliefs that make you feel the most righteous, the most certain, the ones that feel cozy like a warm blanket, those are the ones you need to question the hardest. Second, watch actions, not words. Ignore the performance, ignore the tweets, and just look at the actual results. Third, embrace complexity. This one's tough. Go out and deliberately find the smartest people who disagree with you and try to understand their arguments. It'll feel uncomfortable, but that feeling is your brain breaking free. And finally, number 4, test character over time. Real trust is built on consistent behavior for years, not on one perfectly curated image.
5 centuries ago, a man wrote down the secrets to manipulating the human mind. The playbook has been open ever since. The simple stories will always be tempting, the repetition will be deafening, and the performances will be convincing. The only question that really matters is, now that you know the game, who's writing your story? You or the fox?